rocket has been primed, and as smooth as the fiberglass finish is, it probably really doesn't need more than one coat here. Now you can see how the fillet is still a bit raised there, and that means the epoxy set too quickly. And like I said earlier, it seemed like it was curing much faster than I normally associate with that 15-minute epoxy. So I'm not quite sure what was going on there. But otherwise, this looks pretty good here, and I'm going to go ahead and take and paint it. Here's the rocket with paint. Now, for the most part here, the main body of the rocket as well as one fin. This was done with 3 coats of metallic blue paint. Alright, now the yellow fin was masked off, and that was done with yellow paint, 3 coats. Now here's a rookie mistake, and I've done it more than once, I should know better. But you notice that the red fin here has a matte finish, and that's because I taped it off after only 24 hours of drying. I should have let it dry for at least 48 hours, but I got into a little bit of a hurry. Now if you find yourself in a similar situation, one thing you can do is mask off the whole rocket after 48 hours and repaint the fin, or you can try a clear coat. Now I've got a little bit of tape still stuck there, but sometimes a gloss clear coat will hide most of that error there. Okay, so I will look at this after I get all the decals done, which I won't do for at least another 24 hours. And then once the decals are all done, I may go back and clear coat this. The paint on the body is dry, and we're now ready to put the engine retainer on. However, I forgot to mask this part, so I'm going to take a little bit of sandpaper here. I'm just going to roughen this up. Here I've made up some 5-minute epoxy, and we're just going to put this onto the motor mount here. Now we want it on the outside of the motor mount tube. We don't want any epoxy down inside of it. And we want a nice uniform layer. It doesn't need to be really blobby. Okay, and we'll just put this on. Okay, now we should be even there. Okay, our sanding has made it so it wants to go down farther. So we want to make sure this is just even. Remove any excess there. Alright, and that looks pretty good. We'll let that epoxy cure. The epoxy has set, and this looks pretty good here. And I've come to a decision about this fin. I'm going to give it a little bit of sanding, and then I'm going to mask off the yellow fin again, and I'm going to paint this red fin the same color as the rest of the rocket. So I'm going to have to go through and remask the yellow. I'm going to have to mask off the engine retainer screws here. I think I can get away without doing the 2 rail buttons there. But I'm going to go do all that, repaint this, and then come back when I'm done. In part 1 of this video series, I had mentioned I'm going to epoxy in some cord here, some Kevlar, into the nose cone rather than trying to use that little tiny loop there. And so I've got about 8 grams of 5-minute epoxy here. I really wish I had another hand to do this. So the first thing I'm doing here is just getting a good layer of epoxy on the end of this here. I'm just going to drop that down inside. Alright, now it's kind of dark down in there. Okay, so I'm going to just push that up against the wall. And now I'm going to pour the rest of this in. So it's going to coat the Kevlar cord as it goes down, and also provide a little bit of nose weight. So in the open rocket simulations, this looks stable with all of the motors we would typically use. But I've found that with these Mach1 kits, they can be unstable even though the simulation says they are. I've had 2 of their BT-50 kits go tumbling due to stability issues. Okay, now I'm shoving this down further so that it's well into the epoxy. And now I'm just going to let that cure for about 10 minutes. Here I've finished painting the red fin to match the rest of the rocket, and it came out really well. You really can't tell which fin it was anymore. And we're ready to put all of this together. So the first thing we'll do is simply put on the retainer here. Alright. And then on the other end we're going to attach the recovery system. So I'm just going to move that over there. So on the end of my shock cord here, I'm just going to tie a loop using a water knot. Right, the water knot's just an overhand knot in a loop. Now we don't have to have much attaching here. We're going to use the quick link. So this doesn't have to be really big and open. Okay. Do pull it down tight, and like we've done elsewhere with our Kevlar knots, we're going to add a little bit of super glue. That's the wrong one. Here we go. Okay, we'll just put a little of that in the knot, let it soak in. A little alcohol there to accelerate it. Okay, now we need our parachute. And this is basically a reusable wadding. It's a flame retardant blanket, so to speak. It's not a very big blanket. And we're going to put this through. And then we'll put the quick link on, followed by the parachute. Now I think instead of using the nylon cord here, I think I'm going to go ahead and make a Kevlar one. So give me just a moment and I'll be right back with a little bit of Kevlar. So here I have a short length of 350-pound test Kevlar. It's a little bit lighter than what I used for the rest of the kit here, but it's still well within the range of what it needs. So I'm just going to loop that through the swivel. I'm going to tie a knot in the end. Try and keep the free ends fairly short there. And then once again we're going to super glue that. Keep trying to use the gel. Wrong one. And we'll go ahead and get the fraying stuff there. Okay, we'll give that a spray. Now I cut just a little bit of that frayed material off. Alright, now that gives us a nice strong loop, and so that's going to go on my quick link as well. And then finally we have the nose cone that we have glued in a piece of Kevlar as well. Okay, so we have 3 attachments here at this quick link. You want to make sure that is tightened well. Okay, and now to put all of this together, what we'll do is first stuff most of the shock cord down inside. Okay, now for our parachute, I'm going to open this up and then arrange it so that we've got the corners all overlapping an opposite corner. So there's 2 corners there, 2 corners here, 2 corners there, and then what I'm going to do is take one side and place its corners over the middle, take the other side, place its corners over the middle, so all of the corners should be there. And that's all the shroud lines. I'm going to take the shroud lines approximately halfway here and pull those up into the parachute, and then we'll just fold the edges over and then fold this over itself and then kind of make a little sausage out of it here. And then our parachute protector will go over that. This is also made of Nomex. So it's flame retardant as well. Okay, we're going to stuff everything down. Now if you don't have the parachute protector, you can use just regular recovery wadding. Okay, and we'll put our last little bit of shock cord in there and the nose cone. Now, you want to do a shake test, and I know this is going to fail. That's not tight at all. Nope. Okay. And you want to do this before every launch because changes in temperature and humidity can result in expansion of the tubes or contraction. This is really loose, so I'm going to go ahead and start with a full circumference of tape, or not quite a full circumference. We'll see how this one goes. Okay, so now I'm going to put everything back in. And now that's too tight. So let's back some of that off a little bit. Trying again. That feels about right. Okay, so it's not shaking off, but it still comes off readily. All right, and our last task now is to do the decals. I'm ready to apply the decals. And the first thing I'm going to do here is just take my fingernail and just run it over here so that we get good adhesion to the top paper. Alright, you can also use like a pencil or a motor casing here. Alright, anything that will let you press down on that. Alright, so I am going to now cut this out close to where the decals actually are. Okay, so I am going to put this on the side opposite the rail buttons. Alright, so it's going to go approximately there. Alright, so here I'm going to peel off the back paper. Alright, and carefully we want to leave the actual decal on the front paper here. And if it starts to peel off the decal, just put it back a little bit and rub it some more. Like that, it's going to fix itself. Alright, so that one's trying not to come off there. You can also just kind of help it along with your finger. Okay. Now this next part is optional, but you can take a basin of water here, and this has just got some room temperature water and 1 drop of dishwashing soap in it. And so this temporarily makes the decal less sticky. And so we can just quickly run it through there and just squeegee most of that back off. And this allows us to place and replace if we need to, depending on how good our initial aim is here. Alright, so if I put it down like that, it looks pretty good. So once you've got it where you want to, then go ahead and rub it down. Try and get as much water out from under it. And after you've got this done, it will be permanent after a day or two. Okay, so now we'll just gently peel this back. All right, use your finger if you need to help keep things down. Now once you get this front paper off, you can still reposition the individual letters while it's wet, but it gets really tedious to do so. There we go. Okay. That actually came out a little bit crooked, but I am not going to try and move that again. Alright, so now I'm just going to take a tissue and squeegee out all the letters here. Okay, and then we've got 3 Mach1 logos here, and I'm going to put these on the fins. Now I'm going to bring this up on a stand so I can get to the fins easier. Okay, and so this I'm going to try and place about like that. So close to the root edge and in the same orientation as the main body is there. And for these ones, I don't think I'm going to bother with the soap. Mainly I just want to make sure that it's fitting entirely inside the fin dimensions there. And now there we go. And we're going to continue this with the other two fins. So this is my completed pulse, and to do a little self-critique here, I wasn't as happy with the fillets as I would have liked. I'm a little out of practice. But I hope you had fun building this with me. Have a great launch and a safe recovery, and please stay tuned for more of my videos.